Welcome to the Screen Crush Break Room. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in Loki, Episode 4. This episode is titled The Nexus Event. You'll remember that Nexus events are any event that causes the timeline to branch. In this case, it's the Nexus event that drew the TVA to Sylvie and Loki.
You ever seen a branch like that?
Now we'll talk about that event and what made it so special a little later in the video. The episode starts in Asgard with young Sylvie playing with her toys. In this scenario, it's an old Viking ship being attacked by a dragon and then they're saved by a Valkyrie. Remember, at this point the Valkyries had all been killed, so they were basically the stuff of legends.
My God, you're a Valkyrie.
I think it's sweet that young Sylvie looked up to the Valkyries as a strong female role model.
It's about time.
We can also see the wolf Fenris that belonged to Hela, so maybe her older sister was also a part of this little game. Another strong female role model for her to follow. It occurred to me while I was watching this that for immortal space gods, the Asgardians were really taken with Viking culture. It's funny because we think of mortals being obsessed with gods, but really the gods are obsessed with us.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
So I'm just going to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. How could there be a child variant of Loki that's a girl? Sylvie pretty much asked this later.
What was my Nexus event?
This is interesting because clearly the Nexus event wasn't her being born a woman or changing her sex at birth like I theorized in our Variants Explained video. If the Nexus event were simply her gender, then Ravonna wouldn't have said,
I don't remember.
Of course, there is the possibility that Loki used to change their gender all the time as a child because, after all, their gender is listed as fluid on their arrest form. But
I don't think so.
Instead, it really does seem like there can be alternate timelines coexisting alongside the sacred timeline. Maybe the TVA is cool with these variants as long as they don't stray too far toward the red line. Or the sacred timeline actually consists of many alternate realities kind of wrapped up and twisted in each other like the threads of a rope. If that's the case, then the variant realities are the changes in the time stream that threaten to split the rope. For instance, Alonso GD on Twitter believes that this variant timeline occurred when Sylvie decided here that she wanted to become a Valkyrie and not a Loki. Something tells me we're going to find out more about these variant realities next episode because, wait, hold on, you guys know there's a mid-credits scene, right? If you don't, go watch it, then come back. We'll wait. The flashback continues, showing us Ravonna's past as a hunter and young Sylvie's escape. This is the reason the Timekeepers are so afraid of her. She's been on the run for centuries, probably, plenty of time to learn what the TVA is and what they're up to. She also knows their greatest secret, that all the TVA workers are variants. This also shows us exactly why Ravonna doesn't like Sylvie and is so threatened by her. She embarrassed her. She was the one that got away. So after Ravonna goes to see the Timekeepers, the camera rests on this mosaic of them, beginning on the center Timekeeper. Now this happens a lot. The camera always starts on the center statue, the center keeper, and then pulls out, as if to say this timekeeper is the clue to seeing the whole picture. I'm not saying who this is. It could be Kang, Immortus, a future version of Ravonna. I just think the likeness of the center timekeeper is important. Maybe because it's the center timekeeper that gets decapitated and reveals who they really are. Boy, you just can't trust a Marvel trailer, can you? This shot of Sylvie and Loki looking at the apocalypse has been altered heavily from the trailer to throw us off. Sylvie says something that pretty much lays out the theme of the show.
The universe wants to break free, so it manifests chaos.
Loki is the god of mischief and chaos, the embodiment of anarchy, while the TVA is the manifestation of ultimate order and fascism. Sylvie's point is that the universe will always try to change and grow through chaotic events. This is pretty much Loki's purpose in life, as we pointed out in our Loki character study video.
I trust you. You betray me round and round in circles we go. See, Loki, life is about growth, it's about change, but you seem to just want to stay the same.
Then she says,
Do you think that what makes a Loki is the fact that we're destined to lose?
And we talked about this in that same video. In Norse mythology, Loki is trapped in a tragic loop of Ragnarok, rebirth, and Ragnarok and rebirth. Our Loki is trapped in another cycle of always reverting back to his villainous ways, dying, and then being reborn again as a villain. The TVA can't understand what caused this branch, and the answer is obviously love.
Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space.
But not just any love, the love of two variant Lokis. A team-up that should never happen, but is a mixture for chaos that could result in a child of chaos.
It's probably illegal.
I don't think so. We're not related by blood.
Still frowned upon. But then what isn't these days, right?
Mobius is right. The ultimate act of narcissism is falling in love with yourself.
To research this video, I wanted to understand the concept of time travel and the fourth dimension. So I watched the great documentary Genius by Stephen Hawking, where he teaches 3 ordinary people how to think fourth dimensionally.
We've brought together the 4 dimensions.
And this is one of thousands of documentaries available on CuriosityStream, the sponsor of this video. They're the Netflix for nerds, the Hulu for history buffs, and the Disney Plus for the scientists in us all. I watch a lot of video essays, and I see CuriosityStream advertised all the time, so I finally checked it out. Now I'm hooked. And get this, if you use the code ScreenCrush, then it only costs $14.99 per year. This is a streaming service filled with thousands of short and long-form documentaries on a wide variety of topics. I've also been learning about the historical periods that we see in Loki, including the destruction of Pompeii. They make it easy to navigate with different collections and staff picks, kind of like looking for movies in a video store. The service also works on any device, anywhere, anytime. So again, if you want to try out CuriosityStream, and you really should, it's great, use the code ScreenCrush to get access for just $14.99 a year.
After Loki is apprehended, we finally see the return of Jaimie Alexander as Lady Sif. She had a couple guest spots on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but she did not appear in Thor Ragnarok, when her friends, the Warriors 3, were all killed. Jaimie Alexander was filming her TV show The Blind Spot, which ended up working out for her because now she can return to be in Love and Thunder. She says,
"Because it was just a bit of fun."
Which is how Loki describes his coronation prank on Thor.
That was just a bit of fun, really.
Double Vax Shot of Espresso on Twitter pointed out that this is tied to an actual Norse legend of Loki cutting off Sif's hair, and that this event led to the creation of Mjolnir. The scene is appropriate because, like I said, Loki lives his life in loops. All myths are loops because these stories are told again and again and again. Ancient people told these same stories over and over. Unlike the Loki of the MCU, there was no serialized movie series to help the old character grow and change. Mobius drops this fun line.
You know, we brought in Kree, Titans, vampires.
Kree, of course, are the intergalactic empire seen in films like Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain Marvel. Then there's Titans, plural. We've only seen one Titan that we know of, Thanos. But by the time we met him, his world had been eradicated and he was presumably the last of his kind. But in the comics, there were other Titans like his brother Eros. And in the comics, Thanos also has connections to the Eternals, so I'm wondering if they might end up being Titans as well. But the biggest name drop was...
Vampires.
Vampires. In the MCU, Wolverine fighting vampires, Peter Parker fighting vampires. We already knew that a Blade movie was coming starring Mahershala Ali, but this is the first time we've actually heard vampires being mentioned in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would like a Blade movie now, please. Loki tells Mobius the truth, planting the seed of doubt in his head. But he's not the only one. Hunter B-15 is haunted by the memories that Sylvie showed her. This poster says verification through deletion, and it haunts her. Remember, she was the one who made the most discriminatory remark against variants.
I don't want anybody out there to forget what you are. A cosmic mistake.
And now she's seen herself in the people she persecutes. So back to that uncontrollable force the TVA couldn't understand, love. As Mobius explains,
true love is your soul's recognition of its counterpoint in another.
So Hunter B-15 learning empathy for others, for her enemy, shows her that she is like the people that she's persecuted. And this is the first step to toppling a fascist regime like the TVA. Later they'll return to Roxcart so she can reveal her full memories. Roxcart, by the way, is a chain owned by Roxxon, the evil corporation from the comics that's had a small role in Agent Carter. Also, notice that when Sylvie enchants people, their temples glow, very similar to the Vision's powers when he unblocks memories in WandaVision. Makes me wonder if Sylvie's abilities are somehow tied to the power of the Mind Stone, like she's tapping into the energy of the universe that stone embodies. And her powers don't work in the TVA because the Mind Stone doesn't work in the TVA. The music playing in Ravonna's office is a theremin rendition of St. Sans the Swan, played by Clara Rockmore on the theremin. She's asking Mobius where he wants to go, if he could go anywhere. I think she's testing him, trying to see if he says, oh, I really want a jet ski. Because if he did say that, it would mean that he was thinking about deserting the TVA. It's possible she's run this test before and had to delete other Mobiuses. Remember, she said,
Mobius.
Those rings are already there.
And they're all from you.
But Mobius doesn't remember leaving all of those rings, so it's possible that he's not the only Mobius. Even this line,
friendship like ours is not common,
is just another manner of control, trying to manipulate his emotions. And this,
you can be whoever, whatever you want to be, even someone good,
is really the key line of the series. The TVA represents determinism, the idea that everything that ever happens is fate and cannot be altered, where Loki represents free will, the idea that we are what we choose to be.
You are what you choose to be.
The most heartbreaking line I have ever heard in the MCU is,
And wherever I had a life before the TVA came along, maybe I had a jet ski.
I was absolutely shattered when this happened, but it looks like he wasn't erased, just teleported. But we'll go over that later in the video. When Sylvie asks what her Nexus event was, Ravonna lays on the cool villain line.
I don't remember.
I don't even know who you are. I don't recall killing your family.
Then we finally meet the Timekeepers, animatronic Disney characters made to accurately reflect their comic book counterparts. Sam warned us, you guys.
What big three? Androids, aliens, and wizards.
And the Timekeepers were kind of all three. Isn't it funny that Loki actually called it on his first day? Notice that the central throne is framed by an hourglass, and Silent Hamish on Twitter pointed out that this room also seems like an homage to the Future Council in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. What a cool, if predictable, homage to the Wizard of Oz. The difference here is we don't have an immediate reveal of who's behind the wizard. We're just left to speculate, which I invite you to do in the comments. After the reveal, they say,
It never stops.
Again, loops. This makes it seem like there is no boss of the TVA, that all of this was just put into motion and will continue until the end of time when the universe is reborn and it all begins again. This is actually where the Timekeepers came from in the comics. They were created at the end of the universe by the last member of the TVA, who then sent them back in time to create the TVA. It's a perfect metaphor for an unnecessary bureaucracy. An entity that exists only so it can exist. Then we get another kicky punchy fight where the Lokis don't use their powers, I guess because they can't in the TVA, even though they've had their collars removed, and then he's pruned temporarily. The episode ends with a song from Brenda Lee, If You Love Me. The key line in this song is, when our last hour on Earth is through, I will share eternity with you, because Sylvie and Loki have finished their time on Earth, and now they're in the TVA, where time is basically eternal. When he wakes up, he asks if this is hell, single L, meaning the Asgardian afterlife. And then, oh god, what a reveal. Other variants. We have Kid Loki, and Alligator Loki. According to the credits, this is Boastful Loki, and Richard E. Grant in a comic-accurate costume as Classic Loki. They're in a post-apocalyptic New York. Note the Avengers Tower in the background. Now this could be a number of alternate realities where the Avengers failed to save the planet, but I'm guessing that in this world, Ultron won and sent a shockwave around the globe. And you've actually seen this alligator in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is your mom.
Naku on Twitter theorized that in this other reality, instead of turning into a snake to scare Thor, Loki turned into an alligator.
He transformed himself into a snake, and he knows that I love snakes. So I went to pick up the snake to admire it, and he transformed back into himself, and he was like, yeah, it's me! And he stabbed me.
This scene is a recreation of this panel from the Mighty Thor number 12, when all the variant Lokis team up together. Now there's a hint that we're going to see a kind of anti-Avengers with these variant Lokis teaming up. The score at the end of the episode is a mirror to the ending of the Avengers. Now Loki is in a similar position, on the ground with a team looking down on him straight into the camera. So it turns out the TVA weren't really erasing people, they were banishing them to this apocalyptic timeline. They probably weren't even pruning the other timelines. All these charges might just erase all memory of the variants or the TVA from existence so people don't come looking for them. So here's that theory that I promised you, and it comes partially from Alonso GD on Twitter. There is no sacred timeline. Just like the Timekeepers, it's completely made up. The TVA is a group of people, or maybe a single person, who's just intent on maintaining power. The greatest threat to their power, for some reason, are Lokis, because Lokis are chaotic elements in the universe.
The universe wants to break free, so it manifests chaos. Like me being born the goddess of mischief.
So, who's behind all this? Is it Kang, Immortus, Ravonna, or has the TVA just been going on so long that nobody knows where it came from? Does the snow globe on Ravonna's shelf represent Kang's city of Chronopolis?
So I want to know your theories down in the comments or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.